Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel and also welcome back to the subject of the instructional material and development. So for this topic, we're going to be talking about the guiding principles for the selection of the teaching strategies. So what I have told you before is that when you try to look into crafting your instructional material, look at it as you are inside the classroom, even if you're crafting a module. Why? Because it's easy for you to really look into the complexity of the topic at the same time looking into the needs of our dear learners. So again, when you try to look into that one, you try to look also into looking at the teaching strategies of yours as a teacher when you are inside the classroom and trying to put and adapt, try to contextualize it into your learning material that you are drafting. So once again, everyone, our topic for today is about guiding principles for the selection of teaching strategies. So the first thing that you need to look into, of course, is your strategy that you're about to choose should be student-centered approach. Student-centered approach is looking into that the students are the one involved in the teaching and learning process. So therefore, the activities should encourage collaboration, tailoring instruction in terms of the individual's needs and interests. So again, our activities or your activities, your discussion should be easy, at the same time looking into the needs of our learners and not only looking into your level. Look at the level of our learners and look at your look at the needs of your learners. Next one is differentiated instruction. So what do you mean by differentiated instruction? You try to look into the different learning styles and backgrounds of our dear learners so that you create and also present different platforms of multiple intelligence to our dear learners. So therefore, you try to look into different variety of strategies so that you ensure the opportunities that our learners are, present at the same time that the learning should be, successful because you are targeting to their individual needs and talents, and at the same time your instruction are equal and inclusive to all. So the next one is about active engagement. So what do you mean by active engagement? This create and promote teaching and learning in a practical setting or setup, and therefore they create a hands-on experience through your discussion. And of course there is an interactive, in terms of putting technology. So, what is the purpose of active engagement? Active engagement makes learning fun for our dear learners because they create a learning that is positive, at the same time a learning that is practical and a learning that is relevant to our dear learners. So when they are actively engaged, of course, for them learning is fun, at the same time learning is simultaneous and continuous. So let's proceed. So next one that you need to look into when we try to look into the teaching strategies is the assessment integration. So these teaching strategies that you have incorporated should look into assessing our dear learners so that we are trying to ensure that the activities are still consistent with our objectives and topic, and therefore they facilitate learning and provide learning, meaningful progress, meaningful feedback for you to look into. Are you still going, or do you need to stop, or do you need to have a remedial class, so that it's easy for them to really look into a smooth teaching and learning and smooth integration of what they have learned into application. So again, your assessment would look into checking if they have learned. Without assessment, definitely it's so hard for you to understand if they are really learning from the topics and activities that you have presented or discussion. Next one is, of course, when you try to look into your teaching and learning, is that the strategy should be relevant to the real world context. Because, of course, we are already into the 21st century era. Therefore, you need to emphasize the application of knowledge to real world context. Because if there is no application for the real world context, definitely our learners would really look into that the topics that you have discussed or presented are irrelevant to the era that they have. So through that, you try to apply what they have learned from the theories, theoretical concepts, and apply to real life scenario that would help them enhance understanding and demonstrate the relevance of the content. So the next one is feedback and reflection. Through assessment, they try to, through assessment or the result of the assessment, it's easy for you to put into the feedback. What is the purpose of feedback? The purpose of feedback is that they try to encourage learners to assess their own learning. At the same time, your feedback will help them try to improve and try to look into what they have learned. So the continuous feedback will help them look into their learning progress if they are really improving or not improving, and will create opportunities for a promoting of a growth of mindset. At the same time, promoting looking into and at the same time assessing their learning progress. So next one, of course, is cultural responsiveness. So when you try to look into the teaching strategy that you're about to use into your learning material or into a face-to-face learning, you need to be culturally responsive. Try to look into what type of learner do you have so that you will recognize their own diverse cultural background, and of course try to incorporate the materials that they are exposed with, that they are familiar with. Because when they are familiar, of course, when you have the heart and when you know it, definitely it's easy for you to connect with the topic that you are learning because you have already a prior background knowledge of what you have learned before and try to incorporate with new knowledge. So therefore, it's easy for you to integrate, connect, and therefore it promotes inclusivity. They create equal opportunity. They create representative of various perspective. Therefore, they create a harmonious type of learning environment because they are acceptable and they create equal opportunity, and they create also a learning that is not being, a learning that will not make our learners being left behind. So I guess that would be all for the um, guidance, or guidelines in terms of identifying the teaching strategy. So we'll be moving on with our next topic for our instructional material development.